So welcome everyone to the final webinar in our series on strategies to help with e-commerce success. Today's topic is learn how to make sense of your Amazon seller financial reports. And for anyone who has ever looked at those and tried to muddle their way through them, you will know what I mean. Lots of great information there, but wow. Our format today is the same as we've done in the past. We'll have a formal presentation done by my partner, Juliet. It will last anywhere from 25 to 35 minutes, and then we will have Q&A at the end. So please make a list of your questions, and we will answer them at the end. They can certainly be about this webinar, but even if you just have some questions about e-commerce in general, e-commerce accounting, we will certainly try our best to answer those for you. Please enter your questions into the Q&A section, not the chat. I will be monitoring the Q&A section for those questions, so it'll just be a little easier. So just type them in whenever they come to mind, and we will make sure that we get answers for you. We've also tried to make sure in a short format webinar like this that we have content for everyone. So whether you're just starting out on Amazon or you've been on Amazon for a while, we hope you're going to find some value here. We've tried to do a little bit for everyone, regardless of where you are on your own journey. And I guess that is it. I don't think I missed anything. Did I, Juliet? I'm sure you'll let me know if I did. And I'll now turn it over to Juliet and enjoy the show.
Perfect. So the one thing I would like to change in this format a little bit is if you have questions as we're actually going through the reports, please ask the questions at the time as opposed to waiting to the end, because it's probably going to have a little bit more context if we're already in the report rather than trying to go back and find the specific report and line that you were talking about. So Steve, if you can just monitor those as we go along. If there are questions, let's put them in between. And the one thing I realized is I didn't do an agenda for this. I usually do 2 slides before we actually get started. So we're already started, and I realized I don't have an agenda, and I don't have the slide that talks about why do you even care what we have to say. So on this slide, I'm going to cover those 2 things, even though I don't have slides for them. So hey, we're human, right? I guess I was editing and hit a few too many slides. So we'll start with why you would want to listen to us. So you're investing your time to sit down with us and listen to us talk about Amazon financial reports. And why should you care what we have to say? So we have been in the bookkeeping space for 20 years. AIS Solutions is a bookkeeping and QuickBooks training firm in Canada. And I specify that we're in Canada because there are tons of resources on the Amazon side related to the US. And you can find a lot of information if you're located in the US, a lot less if you're located in Canada. So that makes us a little bit different. We are Canadian. We also specialize in the e-commerce space. And, you're going to have people that say, well, bookkeeping is bookkeeping, which according to my slide, it's not. But in the e-commerce space, not only is the bookkeeping different, it also very much changes from a brick and mortar retail store. So if you have bookkeepers or you're working with a bookkeeper who doesn't necessarily have other e-commerce clients, one of the things that we think we bring to the table is that because we have a wide variety of e-commerce clients, we can see what our other clients are doing to help all of our other clients. So a little bit industry insider knowledge, I guess, from the experience of having multiple e-commerce clients. So Steve and I, my partner Steve, as you can see on the other little window, are with the weird hands, with the virtual weird hand waving thing, are the owners of AIS Solutions. Okay, so that's who we are. So what we're going to cover. So we're going to talk a little bit about, Amazon seller, and just introduce the two concepts, talk about a little bit about stats related to Amazon. And then we're going to actually dive into some reports. Now, the funny thing is, so this is a new venture for me in the way that I'm trying this. Because I did a training, and I think it was a QuickBooks online training, where I was doing the training and I needed to be live in the program. That morning that I had a room full of people, I guess a virtual room full of people where I was doing the training, QuickBooks was down. And so we couldn't do any training because we didn't have access to the QuickBooks. So what I wanted to make sure didn't happen in this webinar was that Amazon didn't go down. Now, Amazon rarely goes down, but you never know. And so what I've done is I've actually made a recording of the reports that we're going to be talking about and how to generate them and how to look at them. So I've never done that before because there's no sound attached to this video. I'm going to be talking as we go through it. So you'll bear with me if my timing is a little bit off based on when I'm clicking on the screen. Okay, so let's dive in and talk about e-commerce bookkeeping. So bookkeeping is bookkeeping is bookkeeping. Unless you're e-commerce, then it's not. And it's really one of the industries where it isn't similar. And there are so many nuances and so many variables that you have to think about. So one of the, for example, if you are sales tax, if you're talking sales tax, how do you charge? Where do you charge? And we had a webinar. And Steve, can you tell me where these webinars are? Other people can find them if they haven't already watched them.
They will be on our YouTube channel, probably be in the next week or so. They're in the process of being edited.
Perfect.
So everyone who has registered for the webinars will receive an email letting them know when the recordings are available.
Okay, perfect. And why would they need to be edited? We're flawless, right?
Yeah, okay. That's what we'll go with.
We'll go with, okay.
This conversation right here is why they're being edited.
Hey, okay. So sales tax, how to make sure that you're tracking your sales tax correctly, whether you have Nexus, and if you don't know what Nexus is, then please, please, please watch these webinars when they come live. It's very important. Tracking inventory. If you're selling on multiple channels or you're selling online and you have a physical store, it's crucial that your inventory numbers are accurate across all your multiple platforms so that you don't sell something that you don't already have because you've sold it somewhere else. And then what we're going to talk about today are all the additional fees. So if you have a retail brick and mortar store, customer comes in and they buy something, really the only fee you have is if you take credit cards, they pay by credit card, and then you have a merchant fee. In the Amazon and the Shopify space, it's completely different. Shopify is pretty straightforward. It's usually a flat percentage per item that you sell. Amazon, completely different ballgame, which is why that is what we're going to focus on today. Okay, so let's do a little bit of stats around Amazon, just for interest's sake, because I always find these interesting. So these are stats as of April 2020. And what I find interesting, or what is going to be interesting, is what these numbers look like come December or January of next year. Because with the pandemic, Amazon has taken off considerably. So in April 2020, so like 2 weeks into this, Amazon had 2.5 million sellers that were actively selling on the marketplace. 2.5 million, that's a lot. I mean, I don't know how many small business retailers there are in Canada. So this is Amazon Global as well. It's not just Amazon Canada. There are roughly 25,000 sellers with more than $1 million in sales and 200,000 sellers with more than 100,000 in sales. And every year, more than 1 million new sellers join Amazon. So 1 million new sellers a year. And surprisingly enough, it's been 25 years since Amazon was launched, which I didn't think it had been that long. but it now holds the title as the world's largest online retailer. And there are so many platforms that are looking to copy this model where they don't actually produce products, although they now have Amazon branded products, but they don't actually produce products, but allow other sellers to sell on their marketplace. So Best Buy now does that. Wayfair does that. Home Depot now does it in the US. I think it's coming to Canada as well. Walmart has a platform that's very similar. So I think what we're going to see is that this model is going to increase as time passes. So the difference, if you noticed, between the previous logo and this one is just the word Seller Central. So it's actually a different place that you're logging in when you are an Amazon seller as opposed to an Amazon buyer. So all the things that we're going to be talking about and the reports that we're going to be walking through are actually in the Amazon Seller Central. So do make sure that, that you're logging into the Seller Central to get your reports. Now, we're not sure, based on our audience of attendees today, how many of you are actually doing your own bookkeeping, or how many of you are generating reports and sending them to your bookkeeper, or how many of you are just giving access to your bookkeeper and letting them log in, which you can certainly do. You don't have to do this yourself. You can create a user for your bookkeeping or accounting professional, and they can log into Seller Central and download the reports themselves. Can save you some time. And you may just be joining us because you want to understand the reports yourself, which is perfect. We're here to try and make this as easy as possible. So any questions before we dive in to my muddled video? We're going to try my video.
Nope, no questions at the present time. I think the other interesting thing too about Amazon is when you think they started out just selling books and then I think moved into CDs, but originally it was just an online book retailer.
Right.
When you look at where they are today,
yeah,
pretty amazing.
And so one stat as well, which is actually a pretty scary stat, that 62% of Amazon sellers have no idea how to decipher their Amazon settlement. So when we get into the report, we'll talk about Amazon settlements. If you don't understand that terminology, we are going to talk about it. Okay, so the first place is, as I said, we're going to be logged into Amazon Seller Central, and we're going to go to the reports menu, and and really the only one that from a financial standpoint that you need to look at is the payment one, is the payments menu. The rest of them are, absolutely, they're useful. The tax document library will be important if you're collecting sales tax, but we're going to focus mostly on the payments because that's the most confusing one. The tax document library will mostly cover the flat fee. You pay usually, I think it's a $29.99 per month fee for the Amazon Seller Central Premium account. So those invoices for those $29.99 would be in the tax document library. We're going to focus on the payments, which are the payments that are coming from Amazon to you as the retailer. So that's our starting point. And if you're following along, feel free to follow along. If you want to log into your Amazon Seller Central account as we're going along, you certainly can. Okay, so let's see how this works. And Steve, let me know if it crashes and burns, okay? And it did. Why didn't it let me actually show the video? It did when I demoed it in present mode, maybe it doesn't. There we go. Okay, I just didn't click in the right place. Okay, so when we're logged in, this is what our payments dashboard is going to look like when you log in and you click on the reports up here at the top and that drop down that I showed you where it said payments. Then this is what, when you click on that, this is what it's going to look like. Tons of information that are in here, and it can be quite overwhelming. The graphs down at the bottom, and they've recently redone this report, to try and simplify it. I'm really not sure that they did simplify it. Some people love it, some people hate it. We're going to focus, again, we're looking at this from the perspective of what do you need in order to record your information into your accounting software. So if you go through and look at some of the graphs that are down here at the bottom, it's going to talk to you about things like what your sales are. And most business owners know how to run a sales report in Amazon, know how to run, how much they've sold in the last month versus the prior month. So that's not what we're looking to talk about. We're looking to talk about what are the numbers I need in order to make my numbers work in my accounting software so that I really know, what my sales are, but what all these fees are. So if you look down here at the bottom, it shows that there's $8,022.55 in sales, but that's not, and that's great. That's your top line revenue. But how many fees come off of that before it actually lands in your bank account? You're never going to see that 8,000 come into your bank account. Okay, so what we're going to start with is we're going to go to the date range reports, and that's what we're going to click on. And there's a bunch of different areas in this section. So up here at the top, you're going to see the country that you're logged into, and you'll see that I've blurred out some of the company information just for privacy purposes. But if you look at here is the country that you're logged into. So from your single Amazon Seller Central account, you can log into whatever marketplace you're selling on. So if you're selling in Canada, in the US, in Mexico, in the UK, you can log into all of them from one place. This is actually it's blurred here, but it's a drop down that lets you choose what your marketplace is. And the flag is going to tell you what country we're in. So we're logged in right now as Amazon.com. So across the top here, you can see that there are standard orders and invoiced orders. And a lot of people miss the difference between the two, but there is a difference. So standard order is where your customer buys something and they have to pay for it before they check out. And that's probably 90% of all the sales that take place on Amazon. A lot of businesses also give you the ability to invoice orders, which means that you can buy it, but you don't pay for it until a later date. Sometimes that's based on terms. Sometimes that's based on when it's shipped out. It's going to be, it is going to be seller specific. So if you don't see standard and invoice when you log in or when you're logging, when your bookkeeper is logging in, it just means you don't have the ability to do invoiced orders. It's not standard, but we wanted to make sure that you knew that there was a difference. Okay, so if we look down at the grid below, you're going to see that there's the document name, the date that the report has been requested, the date range that it's been requested, and what's happening in terms of this report. So if you have a download button that's here, it means the report has already been generated and you just have to download it. You don't have to do anything. You just click on it. If this is, I'm looking for June sales, I just have to download it. If I'm looking for March sales, it hasn't been downloaded or generated, so you have to request the report. So a little bit of a difference. Once you generate a report, which we're going to go through right now, the action here that will be available will be download once it's ready. It's not always instantaneous, depending on the volume of transaction. Okay, so let's forward through my video here and see where it takes me. I think we're going to focus on standard orders and invoiced orders across the top, which we are, and we're going to start with the standard orders. You can tell it's highlighted. If we click on invoiced orders, the screen looks exactly the same, just the only difference is the highlighting at the top. So we're going to do the standard orders for our example to start with. And we're going to actually generate a new report. Okay, so if we start at the top, you have two types of reports to choose from. You have a summary and a transaction. We're going to choose the summary. The difference between the two reports is if you download a transaction report, it's going to show you every single transaction that has taken place in this time period that you have that you've requested. From a bookkeeping accounting perspective, we need to look at totals. We need to know what the total sales are, the total sales tax, the total fees that we've paid, and that's what comes up on the summary report. It's also a lot less overwhelming than looking at a transaction report. So we're going to focus on the summary report. The next thing that you have to choose is what type of account do you want to include. So this is a fairly new feature that's become available. We talked a couple minutes ago about standard orders versus invoiced orders. In the past, you had to run the same reports for both standard and invoiced and submit both of those to your bookkeeper for entry, or you had to enter both of those, the information from both of those reports into your accounting software. You now have the ability to run one report, and that's what we're doing here, where we're choosing all, and it will pick up both the standard orders and the invoiced orders. You see that we have the option of only choosing standard because we're on the standard tab. If we were on the invoice tab, the options would be all and invoiced orders. So we're going to run the all so that we get both standard and invoiced on one report. It just makes it so much easier to report. Now you're choosing your reporting range. So if you drop down this arrow, you're going to see that you can go back as far as the store was available, in our case, April 2018, up until June 2021. And the reason you have dates that are in the future is invoiced orders. Because if you're just doing standard, you wouldn't have sales for November, because right now it is September. So basically, you would just choose the month that you want, and it's going to default to the last period that you selected. You can put in custom dates. So if you are looking for a specific date range, June 15th to, and we've gone back. Okay, so here's my challenges with the videos, right? And I think if I play, it starts me at the beginning. So let me see if I can fast forward. Nope, and I can't. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm just going to share the video itself so that I can actually control the movement of it. Okay, so can someone confirm that they can see the screen of the video?
Yep, we can see the screen.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's move this over here so that I can fast forward it. Okay, so you can choose custom dates so that if you're looking for a specific date range, June 10th to 12th, you're looking for a specific sale, you can certainly choose the custom dates. We're going to choose July because June was the one that was already there. I want to show you what it looks like when we actually click on generate. So we changed the month to July. We're going to click on generate. Okay, and so what you see here is it actually shows scheduled. And that means it's not yet ready to download. That scheduled will change to download once the report is ready. You'll see across the top you get request for unified summary is going to show up, and it shows you what the parameters are, month 7, year 2020, and what it's scheduled for. Okay, so this is where it's scheduled. You can't always hit cancel if you've chosen the wrong date range. You can always hit cancel as well. Sometimes it takes a little while, again, depending on volume. Sometimes if you just hit your refresh button on your browser, you'll get the download button right away. It's all driven by how much volume there is. If we jump on over to the invoice tab, you're going to see that that same report also shows up on the invoice tab. Even though we didn't run any reports, because we ran a report covering both of them, it shows up on both tabs. It's the same date range, July 1st to 31st, and it does show as scheduled. If we look at the document names for a couple of minutes, you'll see that there's a unified summary, there's a summary report, and then there's a transaction report. So the unified is covering both standard and invoiced. The summary is just summary for whatever tab you're on. So we're on the invoiced orders tab. So this would be the summary report for the invoiced order tab only. And then there are transaction reports as well. And then as well, it shows you the different date ranges. So there's May, April, March 1st. We've got both the transaction and the summary reports. So now let's jump into an actual report. Okay, so this is the report that we generated. It's showing us the activity for June, just so that I had it because it was taking a while for July to run, but it would look exactly the same. A couple of things that you're going to be looking for are the currency. It's most important what currency the reports are being generated in. Usually whatever marketplace you're in will dictate the currency, but in Canada you do have the ability as well to have all of your sales reported in US dollars or all of your sales reported in Canadian. So that's fairly important that you know what currency you're dealing with. So up across the top, it shows all amounts in US dollars. And let's just zoom in a little bit to the picture. Okay, so we have 4 or 5 different sections here. Let's talk about them. Let's start at the top. The first one you're going to focus on is the summary. So it tells you here that it's picking up both standard and invoiced, because nowhere on this report does it say unified. You're not going to necessarily remember, or if you're sending it to your bookkeeper or your accounting professional, you may not remember what you've sent. This gives them the ability to know that it's covering both standard and invoiced. And then it tells them as well, or tells you as well, what kinds of transactions it's picking up. This top section here is basically a summary of all the information that is down at the bottom. The most important number is the $27,864.41. That is the amount of money that got transferred into your account related to these sales from June 1st to June 30th. So if you were to take all the Amazon settlements, so we mentioned Amazon settlements, that is that weekly, twice a week, daily, monthly deposit that comes from Amazon directly into your bank account. Amazon doesn't send you what you sell. They send you what you sell, less all of their fees, and then send you the difference. And that's what the settlement amount is. And this report is going to show you how they arrived at those settlement amounts. So there's the $27,864 is what went into your account. So we'll start with the first section here, which is income. And Steve, do let me know if you have any questions as we go through this as well, or if you have any questions come in. Okay, and how are we doing for time?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
We're at 12:30.
Okay, so on the income side, so there's basically 4 sections. There's an income section, an expense section, transfer section, and sales tax. So we'll start with the income. Pretty straightforward. It's basically going to give you a list of, this is your total income that you made in sales over the period that we were looking at, which is June 1st to 30th. It does break it out depending on how you're selling through Amazon. So it does break out what your FBA sales are, so your fulfilled by Amazon sales versus your non-fulfilled by Amazon. From a accounting bookkeeping perspective, it really doesn't matter. The difference just is the amount of fees that you pay, but you want to be able to record the revenue. So for some of our clients, all they care about is the $72,000. It goes in as one number. We usually break out the sales side versus the refund side, because it is important to know how much, if you're selling $72,000 and $71,000 is being refunded, and you only have $1,000 in sales reported in your accounting software, you don't know what that metric is. So we do split out the sales and the refunds into 2 different lines on your income statement. Shipping as well, I think, is fairly important. This is the income you're making from your shipping. This is the income you're making from gift wrap, if somebody pays for gift wrap. And then promotional rebates are also something that we split out separately. These are basically anytime, and you have them both on the income side and the expense side. Sometimes if it's a free shipping option that they get because of Prime, for example, that's what's going to show up here in the promotional rebates. So what we do is we split out total sales, the refunds into a different line, and then shipping. Because again, it's important for our clients to know we're spending or we're charging $800, $788 in shipping. Is it costing us $1,100 to ship our products out? Okay, well then maybe we need to rethink what our shipping costs are. So that's the income side that we are looking at. Any questions? I think that's fairly self-explanatory. We usually don't have a lot of questions on the income side. It's more the expense side. So now, out of the $72,000 that you sold, $41,000 of it Amazon is keeping. So that's huge. And so it's so important for you to make sure that you're recording your income separately and your expenses separately. Because if you're, this isn't even counting how much it costs you to produce the product that you're selling. This is just Amazon is keeping $41,000 of that $72,000 that it collected on your behalf. And so it breaks out all the different fees. The important ones for us that we track for our clients, you have transaction fees and you have selling fees, and the percentage, the transaction fees and the selling fees vary from seller to seller. It's based on volume, so it isn't a standard flat rate. So it is important. We put them in two different accounts for our account for our clients. Inventory and inbound service fees are if they're handling your inventory, if they're having to pay for anything when the inventory arrives, that's what they're charging you for. And then there's lots of service fees and adjustments, which I'm not sure that anybody other than Amazon knows what they're for. There really is so many things that and you're always going to find that there are different lines that show up that just say service fees and adjustments. And if you really wanted to, you could probably dive into what that $9.26 is. But quite honestly, I'm not sure that anybody other than Amazon knows what those stand for. And then the other account that we separate is the cost of advertising. So from the cost of advertising, we put that to an advertising expense and don't roll it into the transaction fees. Sometimes you have control over that cost. A lot of times you don't, but we do separate it so that you know how much you're spending in advertising, or Amazon is spending in advertising on your behalf in terms of the sales that you're generating. Okay, so let's just scroll up a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, one question we do get asked quite a bit is, with the the FBA transaction fees, because it's usually such a large number, as to what that is. And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Juliette, that really does consist of I think what they call their order handling fees, their pick and pack fees, where they actually pick and pack it at their warehouse, and then something called a weight handling fee. But there's probably 4 or 5 different fees that make up those transaction fees
Yes.
from Amazon.
Absolutely. And if you're doing fulfillment by Amazon, which is what FBA stands for, that's where the majority of the fees come from. So if we jump back up here, seller fulfilled selling fees, that $64 relates to the $389. And then the rest of this, the $12,000 and the $19,000, relate to that $72,000.
So there's a huge price you pay for convenience.
Not only convenience, but Amazon will promote and advertise the products that are fulfilled by Amazon. So if you're selling it and someone else is selling it as fulfilled by Amazon product is going to come up in the search. I don't know what the stats are, but are going to come up in the search more often than yours will. They actually have to look for yours. They're going to promote the ones that are fulfilled by Amazon. Also, if you are selling products, a lot of the diehard Amazon people shop at Amazon for the convenience of Prime, where it's same day, next day delivery, 2-day delivery, depending on where you are located in relation to an Amazon warehouse. If you are selling the product and not fulfilling by Amazon, there's no Prime available to you, because Prime is offered by products that are being fulfilled by Amazon. So Amazon can guarantee that 1-day, 2-day, same day delivery. So there are some advantages and some disadvantages, but it's important to know how much it's costing you. That if you think, I sold 72,000, that's great, but only 41,000 of that Amazon is keeping. So it's important to know and make sure that your margins are covering what you're making on Amazon. Down here at the bottom, you've got your transfers. So these are the total of the settlements that have come into your bank account in that time period. You'll see as well that if there are failed transfers, or if your expenses exceed your income, then you're going to have things on charges to credit card. Because Amazon, if their expenses were more than what they generated in income, they're going to hit your credit card for the difference, because they will not be out of pocket. So that will all get listed down here in this bottom section. If you were to add up all of the settlements that you got in the month, you should come up with the 27,864. And then the last section is the sales tax. And we've got, if you remember, I'm on the Amazon.com side of the reports. And in the next, I have a picture of what it looks like on the Canadian side as well. The sales tax is very important. On Amazon.com, Amazon will collect and remit your sales tax for you. So you'll see the sales tax amount here is 0. So this is what they've collected, this is what was refunded, this is what they withheld, and this is what they're going to remit for you. So the sales tax number should be 0. If the sales tax has a number in it, then it means they're not remitting all of the sales tax. So it's very important for you to either see a 0 or make sure that whatever that number is, that you're remitting it for whatever state they're not remitting it for. And we'll jump over to the Canadian one, and you'll see what it looks like. The report pretty much looks exactly the same on the Canadian side. If it flips over here, and I think I waited too long before I hit play. And I think we're moving here now. I probably should have done screenshots instead of a video. It might have been easier for me. Okay, so here's the Canadian one. Looks exactly the same. Difference is all amounts are in Canadian dollars, but you're going to see there's another line here, which is sales tax. So in Canada, Amazon Canada will collect the sales tax, but it does not remit it. So it actually flows into the amount that gets transferred to you. So you'll even see the description here says net taxes collected on product sales and services. The rest of the report looks exactly the same. And we'll zoom in. The only difference is going to be that sales tax down at the bottom. You're going to see it actually has a number. It shows that it is $2,200 that it's collected and refunded $122.45. And so it has a number in this field, which means that it actually is something that is collected. It's going to flow through into your transfers and that you need to remit it on your own. Okay, so those are our Amazon reports. So let me jump back to our slide deck, which hopefully I have it somewhere. Okay, so do we have any questions? Here's our contact information. If you have any questions for us, feel free to drop us a line. Steve and I are always available and happy to answer any questions. Our website, and I don't even have the podcast on here. So this must have been, just a slide deck that I had never updated. So Steve, I'll let you talk about the podcast.
Sure. We launched a podcast for those of you who are interested several months ago. And the podcast is for entrepreneurs. So we have a guest each week who is an entrepreneur, talking about their experiences, their challenges, how they overcame them, and really just sharing helpful tips for other entrepreneurs to learn from. So the website is smartmansmarterwoman.com. That's smartmansmarterwoman.com. And you can go there and check out the episodes. It comes out weekly.
Perfect. Okay, so we have a question from Catherine. In Canada, are the sales tax included in the income amount? No, they are not. I wonder if I should just open up the reports. It might be easier. Give me a second. So the 20,000 here income does not include the 2,100 collected in sales tax. If we go back a little bit and scroll up to the top, you'll see here that the 72 ties directly, oh, I guess I went back too far. This one doesn't have the sales tax. Yeah, screenshots is the way to go. So here's your income, which ties into that 20,000. And then here is the 2,100, which was the sales tax amount. And so it does not, it is completely separate and doesn't flow in there. Okay, so the other question is chargebacks. What are chargebacks? So basically chargebacks are when either so they're different from refunds. Chargebacks is when the customer goes back to their credit card and says, hey, that's not a real charge, and it's charged back to Amazon, so Amazon takes the money back from you until it's resolved and it's actually a legitimate charge. Okay, and then the other question that we've got is shipping label. So on the expenses side, you're going to see here that you have shipping label purchases and refunds. So there are times when you are fulfilling by Amazon that if you're sending the inventory to Amazon, you have the ability to either pay for your own shipping, or Amazon negotiates lower transport prices that you can take advantage of. And you print the label from within your Amazon when you're sending the inventory in. So when you print those labels, you still are paying for the shipping, but you're paying a reduced rate. And that's where you can either pay for the shipping at the time, or you can have it added on to your account and it would show up here in the shipping label purchases. So this is you sending inventory to an Amazon warehouse for fulfillment, and you're using their shipping account. Okay, any other questions?
I don't think so. I think that has covered them all. I just, again, to mention, if any of you think of a question regarding Amazon sales reports, Amazon reports, or anything to do with e-commerce, bookkeeping, or accounting, please just send Juliet or I an email and we will try our very best to answer it for you. And yeah, I think last call for questions, and I do not see any more. So I think that will be it for today, and that is it for our series of webinars on e-commerce. Hope you've enjoyed them, and talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Thanks, everyone.